The next episode, and today we're going to talk about somebody who had a job, did a good job, and kind of worked himself out of a position, started his own business. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton, and today my guest is Shane Nichols. Shane, welcome to the show.
Hello. It's an honor to be on, Matt. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So listen, you and I have known each other since probably 2003, 2004, which is a while. But why don't we do this rather than me read some canned intro? Why don't you just spend 2 or 3 minutes explaining who you are, and then we can get into your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was in media sales since college. I worked at the college newspaper, and I kind of followed all the media that are slowly dying. So I went from newspaper to magazines to radio to television, and I worked at an advertising agency for a long time, and then I got back into sales, selling sports sponsorship for Learfield, which is NCAA sports sponsorship for mostly Division I colleges. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years.
And so where were you working out of?
Mostly, yeah, in Indianapolis, 80% of the time. When I was working for the advertising agency, I was in Dallas for a few years, and then we had clients in San Francisco. I went there for a while, then I was in Boise, Idaho, which was very exciting for a few years. Then I got homesick in 2018 and moved back to Indiana.
And that's when you picked up at Learfield and ended up working primarily the Ball State account, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a brief time, I went back into TV sales. I was working at Channel 13, and the Learfield had won the Ball State multimedia rights business. They had not had that. I had friends at Learfield, and they thought I would be a great fit. And so that's where mostly I've been the last 7 years.
Excellent. Excellent. And then Ball State and Learfield decided to part ways.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've read anything about college sports in the last, 5 to 10 years, there's a monumental amount of change going on in that industry. And so sports athletic departments at colleges now need to pay athletes. Athletes have the right to earn money on their name, image, and likeness, NIL, rightfully so. It wasn't legal until, a month or two ago is when it was finally legalized. And so all these athletic departments are scrambling to find money. At Big Ten schools, that means they got to find another $20-25 million that was not in the budget. At a mid-major school like Ball State, you're looking for $200,000, $300,000 that's not in an already very small budget there at Ball State. So, what's happening is they're looking to multimedia rights partners like Learfield, and there's others called Playfly and Van Wagner, and there's a lot of competitors in this space. Learfield just happens to be the biggest. They're really putting pressure on every aspect of revenue generation, including their multimedia rights partners, expecting a lot, asking us to pay them more. And we put our best bid forward, and we got outbid at Ball State. We did a good job there. We had a good run. But that means, I've had to work at the Fighting Illini, the University of Illinois. I've been helping them out since we phased out the Ball State business.
And this all this experience is kind of rolled together and led you to actually write a book, which is the basis of your business.
Yes. So, I would thank you for calling it a business, man. I mean, it's kind of like a side hustle. I mean, it's on my LinkedIn page, right? But yeah, it's like the first time I've ever put myself out there in that regard. And, during COVID, and like I was out of sales for 8 years working at that agency. I had a cushy agency job. All I had to do was take care of clients, grow clients, take care of, I was a managerial job. I did media directing. And so when I got back into sales in 2017, I was like, wow, this seems harder than it used to be. It's like I can't even get an appointment. I was working for the number one TV station in Indianapolis. We have 1 million viewers a week, and I couldn't get an appointment with an HVAC company who was spending money in Valpak or whatever. So I was experiencing, I just felt it was tougher to get in front of clients. I experienced the same thing in Muncie at Ball State. There's not a lot of excitement about athletics. Ball State hasn't done a lot in that regard in a while. It's been a while since they've had, an NCAA tournament appearance with their men's team, and their women's team just went last year. So kudos to them, and that helps. But there's an apathetic fan base around Ball State, and so I was having the same trouble there. I mean, this is Ball State. It's the only most economically viable thing in the entire Delaware County, which is one of the poorest counties in the state. I mean, they've lost all kinds of manufacturing. So I had a good selling point. I was still having trouble getting appointments. And so it just led me to go really deep into B2B marketing. And I learned a lot about how tech companies and how the most advanced sales organizations go to market. And so I dove in, I learned about that, and the book was my way of mastering that, like making me accountable. And Muncie was my test ground for implementing all these things, and it was a great time. I had great success at it.
So when you say you had great success, like, you just kind of threw out some stats there. What percent of sponsorships did you get sold for the Ball State program? Like, did you hit your goals?
Yeah. So I look at it like in two phases. There was before COVID, and then there was after COVID. And so before COVID, I was old school sales Shane. I was haphazardly calling, 30 different people a day while meeting with three or four different people while juggling a lot of administrative tasks and having a staff. And so I called that the haphazard, non strategic approach. COVID, we lost half our business. No one could go to an event. I mean, I was lucky to retain, and we did about $1 million a year in sponsorship revenue. So we were down to 500,000, and I had about 80 or 90 sponsors in a good year. And so I lost 50 sponsors or whatever. And so after COVID, I really went all in on this marketing to try to get people to realize, we were a unique option and we deserve their attention. And so I did hit my goals the old way. It was just a heck of a lot harder and it wore me out and it left me, just feeling very stressed. A- After COVID, I had really good response to the marketing. I was doing things with the Chamber of Commerce. I had a really robust direct mail marketing plan. The great thing about sports sponsorship is we have all this media. So I could do stuff on the website. I did stuff on social media feeds. We had radio broadcasts of our games. I had signage. So I had a lot of media that I used to help me. And so, I mean, before COVID, I got maybe one or two inquiries a year. I remember the first inquiry I got, it's 6 months into the job. I can't get an appointment with anyone. Then Red Gold's like, hey, can we spend some money on sponsorship? But you got to sell our ketchup, So that was the usual lead I would get. After COVID, after the marketing, I would routinely get 20 to 25 leads per year. These aren't That's a massive gain, but the expectation is just be we're going to do better than we did. And we did by a long shot. I got more leads than when I didn't do the marketing. And the leads, a lot of times were just like, hey, I saw that package you put out on the chamber. I'd like to buy it. So a lot of those were like one call closes, and then we would try to grow that business. But it allowed me to kind of put the new business development on autopilot because I was all alone, and then I was able to focus on renewals and existing clients, which was where my best energy was spent for upselling.
All right. So what's the because you're now in standing up the business mode, right? So last year, when did you finish the book?
I finished the book. Yeah, I started during COVID,
Right.
and I published it in April of this year. So there was it took a long time, it just a lot of iterations, a lot of revisions, a lot of capturing what was happening live at Ball State and putting that into the book, the results of the lead magnets and the marketing. So it all wrapped up in April of this year. And that's also kind of when we wrapped up our our partnership with Ball State as well. And then I began working with the Illini.
Right. So you put that all together. It takes you 4 years really to write the book.
Pretty much.
As you edit it in real time, as technology changes, as the market changes,
Yeah,
right? Because that pre-COVID sales is different than post-COVID sales, and
totally.
2024 is totally different than 2021.
Totally. Absolutely.
So you get that all put together, and now you're standing up a business. What are you finding out as you do this?
So, I mean, it's early days.
Right.
I committed to using LinkedIn as my one to many kind of marketing tactic to promote my book. My
Yep.
book has now become, I'm using the book as an example of how you could attract clients. The book is a lead magnet. I'm basically giving it away for free on LinkedIn. I'm committed to doing 5 posts a week. And here's the thing, I don't know what result. I mean, if training, if me being training people to be better prospecting is a result, and I like that, and people are enjoying, I'll do that, right? If this leads to me working at another sales organization or running a sales organization, that's great too. I don't know. I'm in a very transitional period. I'm taking a little bit of a break and kind of just focusing on this while I'm helping the Illini. So yeah, I don't know where it will lead, but for now, like, I'm working on a prospecting class in July in partnership with you, and we're trying to fill that up. And I've been practicing that course and refining those decks and those that curriculum to try to be very helpful and try to put something out there that someone can implement from day one and really see results and really free themselves up to focus their energies on the more productive things, their existing clients and upselling and over delivering, that kind of stuff, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, and that's which is really one of the things because, I called it a business because there have been people that have paid for the book. So it is in fact by definition a business, right? But it's not a viable business because there's not enough people paying yet. So you got to start eating some of your own dog food and
Yeah,
prospecting using
yeah,
the things that are in your book.
yeah,
But but really, well, I think probably the big thing that you're starting to realize is 0 to 1 is much harder than 1 to a million.
totally, totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, just to be on your own and trying to get the attention of people. There's just so much stuff out there, right? And people have, you're now, I'm now competing with the world, and I have no brand, and so I'm trying to build that. That's why I'm committed to LinkedIn. I mean, I know, like, doing social media, you've been doing 5 different types of social media and emailing, and you've been doing that for 15, 20 years, and you're benefiting from that long run. I'm just getting started in that regard, putting myself out there, and I'm committed for the long term. But it's work, and it's an hour a day of trying to figure out what content to put out there. So yeah, I mean, it's, who knows, but I'm enjoying the process, and it's a
Well,
new challenge.
and
That's what
the
I
big
wanted.
thing with, as I read your book and you talked about a lot of the stuff is it is a process. And it's very similar to working out. You never know which sit up gives you a flat stomach. But if you don't do sit ups, you won't have a flat stomach. Right?
Yes,
And you
exactly.
never know which post or which marketing tactic or what thing that you do will get you to the point where you land your next good client. But you know that if you don't do those things, you probably won't land your next good client.
For sure. For sure.
And that's really, I think, the lesson that you put in the book. It sounds like it was kind of the lesson that you picked up from Ball State. And it's something that you've taken over and tried to use at Illinois from our conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited to have the opportunity to work at a Big Ten school. I mean, it's a different world, man. I mean, having that brand and people, and there's, built up demand for that, but still there's a lot of untapped potential from a new business development standpoint. I mean, there's been a lot of transition at that property, a lot of staff turnover, and they're just now like in a spot where they have a long-term contract ahead of them. So I'm actually presenting next week to that team the stuff I did at Ball State, the stuff I'd like to help them implement so that they can begin, passively generating some leads with their own media. And then if they want to adopt some of the direct mail stuff, that's great too. The problem is like on my own without like a product other than the book, and the training may become a product or maybe not, but like, I can't do a lot of the things I'm good at. Like I'm not going to do a direct mail campaign, try to get people to buy my book. I mean, that's just going to be a huge amount of money that probably won't result in a profit. But, so like having a product, like a great B2B, a great like Sandler sales training. I mean, having great B2B products with just a better prospecting system, this really ignites that. And that's what I'm most excited. It just may not ignite my book, So, um, but it really does work. The great thing about business to business sales is that we're not competing against Apple. We aren't competing against some of the best marketers on earth. It's actually a pretty sleepy corridor. The tech companies are really good at it, but like the traditional old school, every media company I ever worked for, they don't do anything. They hire people and they just release them into the wild. They don't even offer training most of the time. Just go make more calls. That's the strategy. And that's got to change if they're going to keep up. And I think you're starting to see that at some of these media companies.
Well, the good thing about B2B sales, it's where you learn the truth of the saying that if you build a better mousetrap, people will not actually beat a path to your door.
No doubt.
I
No
mean, it
doubt.
doesn't all you have is a mousetrap at that point. So you better figure out how to prospect.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
So, all right. Well, hey, listen, we're up on almost 20 minutes here, but what I want to do is if anybody's interested in the book or interested in contacting you, there's going to be links in the show notes at defaultprofitable.com so that they can download a free copy of the book. They can reach out to you. They can register for the July seminars. Um, and then is there any other advice you have for somebody who's currently selling B2B?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to listen to me, but I think anyone can find a book a week that will help them write better emails, that will maybe open their mind to one to many marketing tactics. Um, I could give you a list of books. There's a list of books in the back of my book that are the source of all of this. I think the most transformational habit I ever picked up, and I really didn't do it until I was probably in my late 30s, is I started reading a book a week, a business book a week. And that has changed everything for me. And I got a lot of good book recommendations from you. You put out a list every year. That was a source of books. There's all kinds of great books. They're easy to read. It's not algebra, and you can apply that stuff day one into your business. And that was what I would recommend to any salesperson.
And honestly, if I read, and I read a lot of books, but if I read a business book, I'm not expecting a million new things, right? I'm expecting one thing that I can effectively execute. So,
One idea.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, listen, as we wrap up, if you're listening, there's 3 ways you can help us. You can leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen, Spotify, Google, Apple. You could hit subscribe. You could share an episode. Um, Shane, thanks for being a guest.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Matt. It was great. Great time.
No problem. And for people listening, we'll be back next week with another episode of Default Profitable. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.